Hello, and welcome to the Good Friday service at Rancho United Methodist Church. I'm Kim Peterson, the Youth and Education Director here at the church. And I have to tell you that the Good Friday service is my favorite service of all year. And a lot of people would say, but why? It's so dark and depressing. But we have to experience the darkness and the loss and the suffering and the death to truly be able to appreciate the joy of Easter morning and the happiness that the resurrection brings all of us. So sit back, relax, and listen to the 7 last words of Jesus.
The first word, Luke 23:33 through 34. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothing by casting lots.
They do not know what they are doing. They do not know? They? Who killed Jesus? Who is they? It is so easy to name others, to blame others. The Romans, the crowd, Pilate, Herod, Caiaphas, they all played their part and conspired against Jesus, or simply followed orders to maintain the peace, to keep Jesus' kingdom from infringing on theirs. And yet, where are we when Jesus' kingdom infringes on ours? On our peace and our order, on our prosperity and our security. Where are we when the victims of our peace cry for justice, when those disenfranchised by our order call for compassion? When the hungry and the lonely beg us to share our prosperity, our security, our power? Where are we when Christ is crucified among us? Surely he should have raged at the sinners who nailed him to the tree. Surely he should have raged at us for the evil we do both knowing and unknowing. Yet compassion is there in the first words that he utters. He intercedes for us before the Father. Compassion that called him into being in his mother's womb. Compassion that compelled him to the cross. Compassion that brings incredible, unbelievable grace. Compassion that echoes through the centuries to all who participate in the killing of Christ. Compassion that cries out from the cross, "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing."
The second word, Luke 23:39 through 43. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God?" he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
How much are we like the first thief? Full of anger because we are not rescued from our sin. Full of hate because we suffer because of the sins of others. How much do we want God to snap his fingers and make right what we have made wrong? What we have allowed others to make wrong? How easy it is to cry, "Save us!" and to rail against God when there is no magic cure, no miraculous recovery, no legions of angels to take away pain and bring wholeness. How easy it is to scorn the Messiah, to mock the goodness of the world, and condemn the light of the world because we are unwilling to face what we have done. Yet, there is goodness. There is a cure for sin, a cure that does not promise magical solutions, but promises that the pain of sin is not the end. That when all this is over, when the suffering is finished, that the final word is not torture and defeat, but life. Life springing out of the ashes, life transformed and fulfilled in paradise. To the compassionate thief, to the one who could still recognize the good in the world, to the one who tried to comfort and protect that good, to the one who sought good, comfort was given. Today, you will be with me in paradise.
The third word, John 19:25 through 27. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, the disciple took her into his home.
Who can grasp the grief? The grief of Mary watching her son suffer, the grief of Mary watching him die. And who can grasp the grief of the son who must see his mother mourn? What gift can a man give his mother? What can he offer when he is gone? How can he help her, hold her, comfort her, honor her? Woman, here is your son. Here is the one I love to love you and for you to love. One who knows me, one who is my brother and who can speak of me. One who can hold you, comfort you, and honor you. One who shares your grief. Here is your mother. Here is one I love for you to love and to love you. The one who taught me, the one who fed me, the one who wiped away my tears, the one who hugged me, the one who grieves with you. Woman, behold your children. Children, behold your mothers.
The fourth word, Mark 15:33 through 34. At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
Of all the agony of that torturous day, the lacerations of the scourging, the chafing of the thorns around his head, the convulsions of his tormented, dehydrated body as it hung in the heat all the day, nothing reaches the depth of this anguished cry of desolation. My God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Jesus, who found his purpose and strength in the presence of God, who was sustained by the immediacy of his relationship with God, and who endured all by the tangible power of God, always at work within him, always a center of vitality and peace, found himself totally alone on the cross. Jesus, whose very being was God, found himself utterly absolutely, despairingly cut off from all that gives life and breath, cut off from all that gives purpose and hope, cut off from the source of his being, cut off even from himself, plumbing the depths of the human condition to walk in the place of the utter absence of God, in the place of sinners, in the place of those who reject God. My God, why have you forsaken me? In these words is the central mystery of the crucifixion, which cannot be fully comprehended, that there is no despair so deep, or evil so overwhelming, or place so far removed from joy, light, and love, from the very heart of God, that God has not been before us, and where God cannot meet us and bring us home.
The fifth word, John 19:28. Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, and so that Scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, I am thirsty.
There is a kind of timelessness about hanging on a cross. It is not a quiet death, over in an instant, in one glorious moment of martyrdom, like being torn apart by lions. A cross is as much an instrument of torture as it is a gallows from which to hang. And as the day wears on, seconds stretch into minutes, which stretch into hours, until there comes a point when time can no longer be measured except in the gradual weakening of the body and its ever more insistent demands for that substance which is so vital to life, so foundational to all living things, so basic to existence as we know it: water. Water to moisten a parched mouth, water to free a swollen tongue, water to open a rasping throat that cannot gasp enough air, water to keep hope alive, to keep life alive just a few moments longer. Water to a crucified man is life. O God, thou art my God. I seek thee. My soul thirsts for thee. My flesh faints for thee, as in a dry and weary land where no water is. Who can tell if these words from Psalm 63 went through Jesus' mind? But a thirst for water is a thirst for life, and a thirst for life is a thirst for God, who promises streams in the desert, mighty rivers in the dry land, and living water to wash away every tear. Here at the end of it all, those promises seem far away, distant, and yet Jesus, forsaken by God, still clings to the memory and the hope of life. I'm thirsty.
The sixth word, John 19:29 through 30. A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it up to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
What a sigh of relief. What a cry of deliverance, that finally, after seemingly endless pain and gasping torment, it is over at last. The suffering is ended. The ordeal is finished, and nothing remains but the blessed peace of the absence of all sensation. When all there is pain, its ceasing is the greatest blessing of all, even when its ceasing comes only with death. But Jesus' cry is more than just welcoming the ending of pain. It is more than joy at the deliverance death brings. He does not merely say, "It is over." He says, "It is accomplished, fulfilled, achieved." Jesus' cry isn't a cry of defeat and despair. It is a cry of success and triumph, even at the moment of death, that the race has been run, that he has endured to the end, that the strife is over, and the battle is won. Jesus' cry is a cry of relief, to be sure, but it is also a cry of victory. The work I came to do is complete. There is nothing more to add. It is finished.
The seventh word, Luke 23:46. Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last.
It is the end, the very end, the end of the ordeal, the end of the suffering, and Jesus, alone on the cross, tortured, exhausted, abandoned by his friends, forsaken by God, gasps for a last breath and gathers the strength for one final cry. Why would he choose to speak so close to the end? Why would he muster the last energy he had to cry out with a loud voice? Couldn't God have heard his thoughts? Unless God wasn't the only one intended to hear. Unless his voice was pitched loud so that we too might hear his final dedication of his soul. A dedication made despite the pain, despite the mocking, despite the agony, despite the sense of horrible aloneness he felt. A dedication made to God before the resurrection, before the victory of the kingdom, before any assurance other than that which faith could bring. Jesus entrusts his spirit, his life, and all that has given it meaning to God in faith. Even at the point of his own abandonment, when the good seems so very far away, he proclaims his faith in God. The darkness cannot overcome it. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to a cross? Were you there when they pierced pierced him in the side? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, oh, tremble. Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?